Late one evening, my buddy Max called me, his voice shaking with urgency. The moment I picked up, I knew something was wrong. He practically begged me to meet him, so I stepped outside right away. I quickly called out to my wife, let's call her Rachel, telling her I'd be back in a few minutes, then hurried downstairs. Max was already there, pacing anxiously, cigarette in hand. As soon as I reached him, he admitted he had just caught his wife cheating and had no idea how to handle it. Dude, I'm probably not the right guy to ask. I told him, I've never been in that position. Maybe just try to forget about her. Find yourself a wife like mine. Surprisingly, that little pep talk seemed to calm him. He stopped fixating on trying to reconcile and instead started thinking about his future. A few days later, a long holiday weekend was coming up. It was around Veterans Day, so most of us had time off. My friends called me early in the morning, inviting me to spend a break in a rented cabin with a steam room. It sounded perfect for a guy's getaway. That evening, I mentioned my plans to Rachel. She seemed fine with it, told me to have a great time, and didn't raise any concerns. The next day, Max swung by to pick me up, and we went out to stock up on supplies. We bought way too much food and booze, figuring we'd be in for a long night. The following morning, all 5 of us piled into the car and drove to the cabin. We had all known each other since childhood, so conversation flowed effortlessly. Time passed quickly, and before we knew it, the sun was setting while our blood alcohol levels were steadily rising. Everyone had planned to crash at the cabin for the night. There were enough spare rooms, and no one seemed eager to rush home, which honestly surprised me, considering they were all married. Yet none of them seemed in a hurry to get back to their wives. Meanwhile, I found myself missing Rachel more than I expected. At one point, I got so bored, or maybe just lonely, that I tried calling her. She didn't pick up, which made me a little anxious. I called a couple more times. Still no answer. I figured maybe she was annoyed that I had left for the weekend, since we'd been trying to have a baby for 4 years without success. I decided to take it easy with the drinking, just in case. We had never even considered IVF or anything like that. We wanted it to happen naturally. Finally, Rachel answered my next call. She said she'd been cooking and hadn't heard the phone. She always welcomed me home with a big meal, so it sounded reasonable. She seemed happy that I'd be coming back soon and asked what time I'd be home. I told her around midnight, and she sounded excited. We said our goodbyes, and I felt reassured. After the call, I wandered into the steam room, where my buddies were loudly discussing something. I shut the door tightly to keep the heat in, then settled onto a bench and tried to catch up on their conversation. They were talking about ways to test their wives for loyalty. I smirked and told them I had never done anything like that. I trusted Rachel completely. They burst into laughter, acting like I was being naive. They insisted that women couldn't be given an inch, that you had to keep an eye on them at all times. I just shook my head and told them to keep their paranoid theories to themselves. They kept pushing, saying I should at least check in on Rachel now and then, but I was certain she would never betray me. I had never even thought about snooping through her phone. That conversation killed the mood for me. I decided to head home early. My friend tried to talk me into staying, but I had already told Rachel I'd come back, and I wasn't about to break my word. They grumbled a bit, but eventually gave me a decent send-off. During the cab ride home, I found myself replaying their words, trying to shake off the doubts they had planted. It bothered me how much distrust they had in their marriages. Did they really believe all relationships were like that? When I got home, Rachel was thrilled to see me. She ran straight into my arms, all smiles. At that moment, I thought, no way she's cheating. Impossible. That happiness on her face, it was too genuine to be fake. We ended up in the bedroom right away, and after an intense night together, she fell asleep on my shoulder. I just lay there staring at her, wrestling with my thoughts. Should I check her phone, or was that ridiculous? After a while, I gave in. Just a quick look. She'd never even know. I carefully took her phone from the nightstand and started scrolling. That's when I noticed an app one didn't recognize. My heart pounded. My palms got sweaty. I opened it and felt sick. It was a dating app, and Rachel had a whole profile under a random username. Not just that, her account was popular. As I scrolled through the messages, my stomach churned. The chats were explicit. There was no mistaking it. She had been cheating. Multiple times. With multiple people. Then I found messages from earlier that very day. I nearly threw up. I stumbled out of the room, barely able to breathe. Rage flooded through me as I started grabbing her clothes and throwing them into suitcases. By the time I finished, dawn was breaking. I lined up her bags by the door, then went to wake her up. She stretched and tried to cuddle, but I shoved her away and told her to get out. She played innocent until I shoved the phone in her face. Her expression turned pale. Then she started spewing some nonsense about how it was her friend's account, and she had just been letting her friend use her phone. Watching her lie so smoothly made me sick. And to think, just hours ago, I was telling myself how lucky I was. All along, she had been deceiving me for years. I yanked her out of bed and pushed her toward the hallway, where she saw her bags. She started crying, begging for forgiveness. But I was done. My anger exploded, and I yelled at her for betraying me. Eventually, she gave up and left, tears streaming down her face. As soon as she was gone, I felt hollow, like my entire world had just collapsed. But deep down, I couldn't deny it. My friends had been right. I wandered outside aimlessly until my phone rang. It was Rachel's mom, screaming at me with a string of curses. I just hung up, not my problem anymore. Over the next few weeks, I managed to pull myself together, thanks to work and my friends. I worried they'd mock me for being so naive, but they actually had my back. They even tried setting me up with women they knew through their wives. I wasn't interested, so I avoided those setups as much as possible. Then, out of nowhere, Rachel called. She was pregnant. I laughed in her face, but she swore the baby was mine. I had dreamed of hearing those words from her for years, but not like this. I had no idea how to respond. We barely spoke throughout her pregnancy. About 8 months later, I finally called to congratulate her and offer support. If the baby was really mine, I'd take responsibility. But she told me not to bother. She had already found the real father. All I could say was, "Thanks for being honest." That was the last conversation we ever had. Months later, my buddies and I hit up a restaurant to celebrate New Year's. The place was packed. Music, dancing contests, the works. A group of dancers dressed as Santa's helpers came out, and they immediately caught my eye. After their performance, I went after them, striking up a conversation. They were bubbly and fun, hesitant at first, but I somehow convinced them to join our table. My friends got a kick out of it, and we all partied hard. By the end of the night, things got very blurry. The next morning, I woke up and realized I wasn't alone. Curled up beside me were those same 2 Santa's helpers. I just grinned, shut my eyes again, and thought, well, guess life isn't so bad after all.